Alec, we should have coordinated outfits. Would have been much better.
They already used their 30. They're out of 30s. You're out of 30-second timeouts.
Alec, how's it going?
What up, Brian? What are we doing? What are we hiding in the background over there? What do we got?
Don't worry about that. Protein shake ready. That's all you need to know, okay?
Bone broth protein, or is that like pea protein?
Oh, you like that, Greg?
Who's that?
Greg, where's your hat?
Welcome, everybody. We are on the Late Night Potty. It's Wednesday night, and we have a great panel tonight joining us. Coach Alec Willis in the top left with the black hat, but in the St. Louis hat, we got G. Dowd, Garrett Dowd joining the potty. Everybody's wearing a hat except for me.
Is this sponsored by Duncan?
No, I'm glad you brought that up because you listen. As a coach, Alec, you know that was part of my trap. That was a 3/4 trap. I left it back here, but it was a 3/4 in the front court trap. So what happened is this isn't a sponsored ad tonight. This is breaking news. So I go to the drive-thru. I'm not going to name the location, but I say, hey, can I have a hot tea? The weather changes frequently, and I had a long night, and sometimes you need tea, a little lemon and honey. So she goes, we're out of lemons. I said, okay, no problem. I'm saying? No problem. Just add a little extra honey. You know what I mean? So I get to the drive-thru window and I say, what do you guys run out of lemons here tonight? You got to go to the other location? And they said, no. Dunkin' discontinued lemons. So my question is, Dunkin', are you trying to squeeze some extra profit and cut some lemons out? The potty has a special relationship with Dunkin', as we all know, minutes, sometimes hours after Dunkin'. You're going to be on the potty regardless, but what are your thoughts?
Are lemons canceled?
Can't cancel lemons because they're a staple in my.
I mean, listen, we're not going to show sponsors that we don't agree with. So I think you should push Duncan to the side a little bit and not have it in the film.
This is almost as bad as when they got rid of powdered donuts, man. I don't know.
Whoa,
no powdered donuts, no lemons. This is not a good.
Oh no, I never liked the powdered donut.
Really,
Brian?
My mouth too dry.
I want to just jump to the NBA because All-Star Weekend just happened, and we're getting back to this post-All-Star Weekend NBA season. We got two hoopers in the house tonight, G. Dowd and A. Will, so we need some hooper insight. We're going to get to your contenders in the East and the West maybe, but my first question, pivoting from Duncan, let's go to McDonald's. What's more fake to you guys, the plant-based nuggets from McDonald's or the Denver Nuggets regular season record?
I think the plant-based nuggets and McDonald's are faker. I love that actually. For some reason this year, I just feel like the Nuggets, in years past, I've thought they were fake. This year, I feel like they're a little more legit.
They're not plant-based.
They're not plant-based.
Wait, has anyone tried these plant-based chicken nuggets from McDonald's yet?
The meat of the question here is every year in the West, Denver makes noise. They didn't have Jamal Murray. We understand that. But, I mean, can plant-based taste good? Sure. But we at the end of the day, know they're not a contender for my favorite chicken. Denver actually can contend this. How many series do they win?
I'll just say I think it's less about them and more about the rest of the teams out there. I think they offer a unique matchup problem for some of the other teams with Jokic. If you get Jamal Murray scoring like he is, I mean, the biggest letdown is Michael Porter. If he's obviously out, they don't give them much. And then the Suns getting KD obviously helps. I think they win two rounds. I'll give them 2 rounds.
How long is Porter out for? What happened? I didn't hear about this.
No, he's like always in and out of the lineup. So what happens when you Google Michael Porter? That's how long he has been playing.
That guy absolutely runs the hedge fund.
That guy's a billionaire.
Yeah. He is in a hedge fund that is tied into some really, really shady stuff.
So Garrett, Alec has Denver to the Western Conference. Did I hear that right?
I think so.
Garrett, do you have Denver in the same spot in the West?
I think it's going to come down to Denver and Phoenix.
Wow.
I really do. I think that Denver is different this year based on their makeup, just because you have guys like Jokic. Like, I think the last 2 years when he's won MVP, his usage was somewhere around 30. It's dropping down now. I think he's somewhere around like 27. I also love the fact that Aaron Gordon is a level above what he's normally been in the last couple of years. He's kicked up the points per game by like, I think 3 or 4, maybe even 5. Jokic is down in minutes, which is a great thing because he doesn't have to be out there dying and mouth breathing the entire time for them to win a regular season game against the Hornets when they're supposed to cover by 11.
He was on that. He was on that plant-based chicken nugget diet this summer. He did lose some weight.
He lost some weight, which looks good. But I really do think that them being, I think they're right now they're like 27 or 26-4 at home. Being the
Oh,
number
wow.
one seed in the West, like considerably, having home court advantage in every single series that you're going to have, as long as it holds out, is going to be monumental for them. I'm a firm believer in playing basketball the right way doesn't always look
Yeah,
traditional.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
uh, I think what Jokic is doing specifically is pushing the game forward and evolving it. And a lot of times you'll see people who don't like him or think Embiid is better right now. And it's not to take away from Joel Embiid at all, but like Jokic is on another level compared to him.
So both of you guys actually had Denver going to the Western Conference. So now we're excluding both LA teams. The LA matchup will be actually like crazy for the ratings. If we really think about an LA Western Conference Finals, you can't always discredit the Warriors. I mean, they're all their defending champs, blah, blah, blah. Listen, the Clippers scared me before, Russ. So I'm just going to say right now that I think it
They
could be
scare me.
against
They scare
Denver.
me less now. They scare me less now.
Wow.
You
Wow.
cannot have, and I hate to say this, but this is my thing with Russell Westbrook is that he was so good on a team that didn't have anything besides him, and he's
Yep.
really good at filling in the blank spaces or filling in the cracks when there's a lot lacking. But his shot selection combined with his inability to make the mid-range jump shot and his absolute love for taking it will hurt any lineup that has a superior talent, especially scoring the basketball in it. It's not to take away from him. It's not to take away from his ability. He's probably the most athletic point guard we've ever seen. Maybe Ja right now at this point, but in terms of is giving him an argument with it. But in terms of being so unbelievably athletic, sometimes guys don't have to develop those other skills that really like separate you. Because when you talk about greatness in anything, but especially in basketball, it's the difference between shooting 45% and 50% or
Mm.
48% and 52% or whatever it may be. Like the gap between elite and greatest of all time is so small, but it's like the foam at the top of the coffee. It's just so
Mm.
little, it's so minuscule. And Russ is a guy who, because he was so athletic, in college and in I know everybody says that he didn't dunk until he was a junior in high school, but it's because he went through a growth spurt. He was always a phenomenal athlete. He never had to develop the skills and
But I,
the
I I agree that if he's on his own team, he stands out. He had Kevin and James with him, but they're different type of players. Can Kawhi and Paul George literally be the coolest teammates he's ever played with? Like they don't care about anything. Kawhi is a robot, arguably. We don't even know if that's confirmed or not. And Paul George is just so cool. They just show up and defend. 2 6'9" guys who just show up and defend. Can Russ finally say, "Yo, who cares? My family's from LA." Can they click? I mean, that's what I'm saying. But I like what you said too, Gary, about Aaron Gordon, because when he didn't make the All-Star, there was a quote like, "Oh, I'm upset I didn't make it." Where
he's trying to finagle being in the dunk contest as being an all-star. Which you know what? Listen, if you're going to campaign for yourself, I get it. I also don't know why the Nuggets. Real quick, just a little caveat. They got rid of Bones Highland. Like the Bones Highland addition to the Clippers is more scary to me than the Russ
Mhm.
addition is because
oh,
he can play basketball. Like
oh,
he is a basketball player.
let's pivot to the East, man. Brian and I, we've been discussing West, East. We've said kind of our spiel, but Al, take us through the East now. Is it the Bucks still, or do the Celtics? Do we have to respect them?
I look, I'm a Celtics fan, so I'm a little biased. I think when you talk about historic seasons over the past few years, that guy who wins the All-Star MVP tends to be rattling off a championship or a deep playoff run. When you look back, or even just thinking about like when LeBron's won an All-Star MVP, him winning a championship, or other guys in the past. I like my Celtics. I do like the Bucks, and my sleeper also for the East is probably the Cavaliers. I think losing Kevin Love hurts them a
Ooh,
lot, but I like the Cavaliers lineup.
Yeah,
Um,
it's insane. It's so bad.
but but it's going to be tough. I'm a Celtics fan, so I'm going to go with my Celtics. I think they check off all boxes when Robert Williams is playing like he is. The shooting, I do think at some point Malcolm Brogdon becomes the focal point over Marcus Smart, especially in a 7-game series. and I think he needs to be, because I think that's the only way they get past a team like the Bucks or even a defensive team like the Cavs. I just think he's an overall, at this point in his career, just more of what they need.
Yeah.
I think he gives you enough defensively like Marcus Smart does, but he gives you more decision making that Marcus Smart not is lacking, but it's not really his game. I don't think he's your point guard on a championship roster. I think he'd come off the bench and have the ball in his hands. But I like my Celtics. Keep an eye out for the Cavs. I think the East got a lot lighter.
Does Philly add anybody that can get him over the hump?
I'll say this about Philly. I'll say this about Philly. Worst thing to happen to Philly is the Nets disbanding, because the Nets were covering up a lot of just the atrocity that's going on at Philly and how they're underachieving. And it took a lot of the limelight away from them. So Philly is going to be under the microscope now that Kevin Durant's out of Brooklyn, Harden's out of Brooklyn, Kyrie's out of Brooklyn. The microscope is going to be on Joel and Harden and the 76ers, because they have been, I mean, you can make the case for more of a bust than the Nets.
Let's take a quick commercial break. I love the hoops talk. We got two hoopers on the potty tonight, but we'll be right back after these messages from our sponsor.
Not Duncan.
Can you get out my face? I'm on the potty. Where the party at? Where the party at? Where the party at? You know I can't forget to wash my hands.
Welcome back to the potty. Quick question for the panel. Who is the best shooter on the panel on live air tonight? So
Brian and Alec are too nice.
Garrett wants no
Brian.
parts of this conversation.
No, I'm gonna fire it off and say, man, I don't give a shit. I've been really, really privileged to play with a lot of good basketball players. I remember being with Brian, with Coach Jerry Mosley a lot, and we both worked incredibly hard.
Yes, sir.
I think that Brian set himself apart from everybody in terms of being an overall basketball player, because he was probably the most prepared human I've ever encountered in terms of being physically ready to play in any type of. I remember Brian was, going to the gym at like 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning before school and lifting weights, and he looked like he was ready to play college basketball when he was a junior and a senior in high school. I think that I've gotten myself to where I am as a basketball player solely based off of believing in my own abilities and the things that I've developed. So if you're asking who's the best shooter on the panel, I'll definitely say it's me.
Yes, sir.
At the same time, I'm also going to acknowledge that guys like Alex and Brian are so good at getting to spots because they're in such phenomenal shape, and also be able to do whatever they want when they get there, and they're not like either tired or fatigued or off balance. It's really something cool to watch, and it's a credit to both of them as basketball players and as people.
Yep. And so, quick story was, I think I was in the 8th grade, and I went out with this team that we played, I think, in trucks with, and we went out to the Coney Island League, and I absolutely got destroyed by these guys. They were just way stronger than me, way faster, way quicker. I was still shooting way better, but that experience of just playing in the city and playing against guys that are way more athletic than me, I knew I had to get myself to that level, being an undersized guard. I knew I had to get stronger. I had to be faster and quicker. So that's the things that I focused on. And then obviously got 500 shots a night, and that just set me apart.
Oh, just 500. But listen, all I wanted was going left off the pull up. All right, that's all I want to claim tonight on the potty. But
pull up.
But listen, we do have a coach on the potty here tonight, St. Joseph, Brooklyn. If I can mention that, we'll pay the editor very well. But we're talking about youth basketball now and what Brian was doing in the 8th grade. 8th grade is an interesting age to start being serious about a sport, maybe in particular. Garrett, you're an educator, coach.
I'm speaking. Yeah, I can't really say specifics of it yet, but I'm definitely going to be coaching in some capacity very, very soon.
News just dropped on the potty.
Okay.
More news on the potty. We're fortunate to be around the youth too. And Alec, take us inside your recruiting eye for a kid. We talked with the founder of the Bitcoin Classic last night, Yusuf Abdul Ali, about this topic as well. Kids, as Garrett just mentioned, I don't think understand the whole aspect of the game: conditioning, physicality, then skill, then 500 shots a night. Alec, what do you have in mind body language wise? Anything you're looking for as a coach, as a recruiter? But I know, Alec, you're at the college level.
Yeah, so just a few quick things before that. We mentioned youth basketball. I just want to throw a quick plug in for any kids who are listening that I'll take myself out of the best shooter on the panel thing because I don't think that I could be on there because I used to look up to Brian. And I'm saying that as being 2 years younger than him, my dad telling me, watch how Brian elevates, seeing him in 8th grade, seeing how he shot. And I will say I had kind of like a learning experience, like just taking from them and trying to implement to my game. That's why I try to elevate as high as I can because Brian was that guy that I was watching along with Kyle and guys like JJ Redick and stuff like that. But if I could shout out to the youth right now, it's just don't just watch a guy who's cooking you and just brush it off like it's nothing, or don't just watch a guy who's better than you and just say, oh, he ain't really like that. Like, see what you could take from him and learn from him. Now, from a recruiting standpoint, now I have to admit it's not the easiest. We are a Division III basketball program on the East Coast. There's Division II basketball players, there's Division I players that I could say I can go into a high school gym and say, wow, that kid's good. I wish I had him on my program. That we really can't necessarily recruit because they're getting money thrown at them. But from a coaching standpoint, just to keep it simple, obviously, if you have poor body language, you're out. Like, I'm not even like probably watching the rest of the game. Body language is so important because at the end of the day, I know a lot of kids are very insular and they're thinking about their stats, their highlights and whatnot, but you're representing a school, you're representing a university in our case. Now, don't get me wrong. They are kids. We obviously take it with a grain of salt. We know what's really poor body language and we know something that we can coach, right? We do credit ourselves as coaches of being able to work with kids, help them grow and whatnot. But poor body language is definitely a turnoff. You see certain defensive tendencies like the communication, the boxing out to finish a play, the cutting guys off and walling up. It's
details.
Tough. Yeah, the little details of defense translate, and that's something that catches our eye because offense is weird. There's so many different leagues now. There's the PSAL, there's so many teams, the CHSA, there's so many divisions, so many teams. And it's tough to really say if that kid is really that much of a killer on offense because you have to take into account the whole experience of
That's a good point.
What's the competition he's going against? And you could tell really just by the coach of the other team. All right, that coach seems to have his guys going the way they warm up. And I'm a big defensive guy. That was always my mantra. Like, I may not be the best player out there, but if I could stop the best player, so it's something that I kind of look at. So I would say just the body language thing, being a presence on defense. I'm gonna challenge all kids out there.
Yes, sir.
Pick someone up full court. Just show me. I always to give a little insight. I always joked even as a player, like I always thought it was easier to pick someone up full court than it was to pick them up in the half court because I could test you, right, 90 feet away from the basket and still be able to recover. So it was always one of those things. Other than that, how efficient you are with your dribble. Are you wasting dribbles? Are you turning the ball over? And you're shooting for them.
And I was going to ask, when you're seeing a kid out there that's super emotional, just pouring his soul into the game, diving on the floor, but almost like out of control. Can't control his mouth, but is helping his teammates up, is doing all the little things, but is a little bit out of control. Does that do you write him off, or are you like,
no? I wouldn't deem that in the body language thing I was talking about. The body language thing to me is really how you are with your teammates. I love that competitive fire. It's something that Greg can speak on that I learned from just coaching with Kyle as well.
Shout out K-Mac.
I like this, right? Like I like when there's this tension a little bit. I want to know you're as into it as me. Now, how you handle it, we can work on it. We could talk about, but it's very shocking that passion isn't there from a lot of kids the minute they step on it's actually a box we have to check off now, right? Like it wasn't always like you came on the court ready to play. Now it's not really that. So if a kid has that and he's just kind of just a little loose with it, because a lot of kids don't.
That's a good point.
Work on that. We can coach through that. And I want kids to know that I'm just as passionate as you, if not hopefully more. And I'm going to help you because I want that kid who's really giving all he's got, as long as he's not disrespectful and rude and cursing out fans and stuff like that, and making it about him. As long as it's about the game and his team and winning and the goal, then I'm all for it. I love it.
G, I got a twofold question for you too, and anyone can take this as well. But be a GM for us outside of skill, physicality, and things like that. What's the number one thing you would look for as a GM, any sport? What's that number one thing in a player? Is that it factor? And that's my second question. Are you born with that? Because that's a debate I've had with some people. You're either born with it or not born with it. Can you develop it, or is it something you got or you don't got?
I think that there are certain people who have the personality to be the guy. And I think that there are certain people who fundamentally misunderstand what it means to be the guy. And I think being the guy on a basketball team is being the person who makes the decision. And it's not about scoring, it's not about putting the ball in the basket. It's about being able to read a basketball game and being able to make the best decision for your team in the split second in any moment, because basketball is a constantly infinitely moving chessboard where everybody reacts to movement. So if you have an innate understanding or even just a definitive understanding of the way that your movements and the way that your decisions affect the movements and the opportunities of other people and yourself, you have to then also be like the personality where those two things meet. You have to understand it, and you have to be the personality where you want to kind of take those things in charge. But I think, I guess if I was going to be a GM, even more than that, because you can have people who can fill all those different roles. You can have the guy who makes all the decisions. You can be a guy who, like you said about yourself, I think that it's not tiered in terms of who's more important or who's more valuable. It's just tiered in terms of what you're doing specifically for the basketball team.
Yeah, having a role.
You are a guy who wanted to defend, wanted to make good decisions for other people, lift other people up and get guys easier shots. And you didn't really always look for yourself, which was, it's a huge thing for a team to have guys like that. And I remember reading this in 11 Rings from Phil Jackson, is him talking about the stages of building a tribe, which is a team and, a unit. And he talked about how you can't reach that pinnacle of what a team or a tribe is supposed to be until you build trust. And it's trust in each other, and it's trust in the message that's being relayed to the team. Guys who have the ability to trust in the person who's at the helm, trust in themselves, trust in the teammates, and trust in the roles that they've been assigned, and the way in which the whole thing comes together. Like, you don't want to tell a kid in any way, shape, or form that they're limited, or a player or a person. You don't want to tell them that they're limited, but you do want them to act realistically within their skill set, within their ability. So if you as a person can trust in the person at the helm, or you as the person can trust in the other people on the court, I think that you're much more easily and readily able to absorb the messages that come from a coach, a teammate. I have a question for Brian real quick, actually. This is a good one that I've always wanted to know. For me, it always felt like when we were there and it was me versus you in a lot of these things, we were the two, at least shooters and skill wise, the people in the gym that were set apart, involved and dedicated to being there every day like we were. Did you feel like you were competing against me in every shooting drill we did?
We're going back a while now.
This was like when we were at PS55, when we were at.
So for me, yes, I was definitely competing for sure. I definitely wanted to win every drill. Yeah, I was definitely competing with you, but my mindset at the time was to get a college scholarship in 8th grade, right? So my focus was making every single shot and perfecting my form on every single shot. I had a short memory. I wanted to make the next one, but I was pissed off in my head.
Oh yeah, it would actually like haunt me. You absorb things from other people, and I do remember picking up on really wanting every shot to be the right type of effort. Like, it didn't matter whether it went in or not. It mattered whether or not I took the shot in the right way.
That's so interesting. We're talking about like really that time that we were just referring to, that 8th grade, right before high school time, where young athletes may be listening. But even if you're in high school, that you're starting to take yourself seriously. Until I was around higher level thinkers, players, workers, And I can speak to Alec and you too, Garrett. Like, you're the type of guys I would see on a court, and I would say, yeah, those are the guys I want to compete against or play with, because you can see something that just stood out as a hooper. I had to learn, though, there was a whole element to development. I was not putting the work in on that side. I was a core competitor, but I was not a
You're
worker.
also a big culture guy from like what I like remember, even just you being very, you've always been just cool. And it's just a way of like,
I just wanted to win. I just wanted to win with whoever was on the court.
you even in terms of like how you were as a person in total, for me, it's always just like you are like obviously overwhelmingly positive. Everybody who knows you knows that that's you. But also on top of that, you fully immersed yourself in the culture of whatever it is that you were doing. I feel like Alec was also like the same way. Like Alec still uses ball his life as a hashtag on everything. And like
I have to. I get called out when I don't.
for me, like I feel like I always came to the game with like a little bit different of a perspective, because again, like I just want to speak about how different it is to become somebody who is a halfway decent basketball player coming from a family where basketball was never even pushed on to me. My dad didn't play high school sports. My dad didn't play college sports. Obviously, my mom never played sports in her entire life. And I came out of the womb and I was just a competitor. Like I just, Alec will tell you now, playing with me in like men's league and stuff like that, it drives me.
Yeah.
I don't let it go. Like I'll be texting Alec about plays from a men's league game, and Alec's like, bro, playing against like 35-year-olds or 22-year-olds, and like you're freaking out about like
I'm at work.
And I'm getting text messages from me, and I'm working, 8, 10 hours a day, whatever it is, 12 hours a day sometimes. And I'm like,
I love it.
I have like almost like I don't forget plays. I don't forget like things. I still have this image in my head of every single encounter that I've had with everybody. Like I was not supposed to be a basketball player, and I turned myself into that. And it was like, even you can ask, Coach Tibbs, who is again one of my good friends as well. Like, but I got on the phone and I called him. I said, listen, you don't know me. You probably wouldn't know me if I wasn't calling you on the phone right now. But like,
wow,
I love this game so much, and I know that I care about it more than guys you have on the team right now. It was just playing basketball at the South Shore YMCA against 40-year-old guys who, all had Italian last names for 10 that's all I did with my life, was dedicated to playing basketball once I got to high school.
We're talking about the generational differences too. We didn't have social media that drove that competition. We had no clue what was going on over the bridge. But to have that maturity is exactly what we were talking about last night for young kids, putting themselves in front of a coach like Alec, saying, maybe you don't see me, but I'm here and I love the game and I'm working. Can I come to a workout? That's something you had naturally, Garrett. That's really cool you even bring that up. What do you think social media has done the most to this generation of kids or athletes?
I think it's hurt kids in the sense that the kids believe that all the answers are out in front of them and they're not looking inwardly for them. There's this drill, there's that drill. This is how you shoot. This is how you don't shoot. And I think the most important thing is what you're watching isn't nearly as important as what you're doing. And that internal conversation you're having with yourself, like Brian brought up earlier, he missed a shot. It was short term, move on to the next one, but it kind of did dwell with him a little bit. He was thinking about that. He probably thought what his toes felt like to what his fingertips felt like to the way his shoulders dipped or whatnot. We're lacking that internal conversations with ourselves because we think we already have it figured out because we watched the video of someone explaining to us that this is how it should be done. But basketball is not a cookie cutter sport. How Garrett does it is not the same as how Brian does it, how Greg does it, how I've done it, or how all these other guys do it. I mean, I say it all the time. Everyone talks about the proper way to shoot a basketball, and you look at the NBA and not one of these guys shoots the ball the same way. I think approaching the game as your own and seeing what's out there and saying, okay, maybe that might work, but let me go find out for myself. And then in that process of self-realization or self-reflection is where you really find the answers. It's not all figured out. Half the people putting out there don't have the answers. They're just projecting what they think they know onto other people, and kids can get insecure about it. Be confident in yourself that what you're thinking about actually matters.
Yeah,
and
you can't just be a workout guy. You got to seek competition. You got to seek people that are going to make you better. You got to seek people that are better than you, bigger than you. You got to find these people. It's cliche, surround yourself with the right
True,
people,
though.
because that's gonna keep pushing you.
Yep.
It's also gonna get you better in terms of you're playing better competition, and it's keeping your mindset right.
I was thinking of social media as like what I'm viewing, not necessarily what I'm posting.
Mhm.
If you're that guy working out every day, you're not gonna have time to post everything you want.
I think that social media has affected the little things of a basketball game. I think that, and Brian, you played at such a high level. Alec, you did too, and we all have played in elite games. But you can tell how good a team is based off of a couple things. But the first thing is ball pressure, right? And the reason why I'm bringing that up specifically is because most kids are not taught that ball pressure is the key to a phenomenal defensive team, because
Mm.
they're afraid to do it. And the reason why
Yes.
they're afraid to do it is because they get you, like, if you're pressuring the basketball,
Yes.
you're gonna get beat. It's a natural occurrence of the game. But the reason why you're pressuring the basketball is because you want the person who has the ball to be making a decision that is not comfortable. It's not thought out. It's rushed. It is, influenced by you. You're taking the action to them. And I think that because everybody's afraid to get put on a poster, on a highlight, to be communicated, or to have it be communicated on social media that they got beat or they couldn't stay in front of somebody or
They got
whatever.
shifted.
Yeah,
Yep.
they stop doing the things that make a team really,
Yep.
really good and really, really skilled. And it goes back to what I was saying before about being a GM, like trust. If you're pressuring the ball, you have a trust that somebody behind you is going to pick you up and help you and rotate the correct way. When you do it, inevitably get beat by somebody.
Big time.
And it's just one of those things where, like, I really do feel that social media has kind of taken away from people's ability to understand the game um, in the right way. And even like the over saturation of training videos, like, it's so insane. Like, guys doing all these ridiculous drills. Like, I think that, and I've had long conversations. Alec will tell you, we've gone to lunch and had a conversation about the way that I think that the game should be taught, and the way that I think that offenses should be run, defenses should be run, skills should be taught, is fundamentally misunderstood because we misunderstand learning. The psychology of fear, and the fact that you think that you could be on social media because you made a mistake, and it's not even a mistake, it's you doing the right thing.
Well, yeah.
It's bad.
And that's kind of why I brought it up before. Like I talk about picking a kid up 90 feet or picking a player up 90 feet. It almost kind of mitigates some of that a little bit, and that's not why I said it. But if you're a kid who gets like shifted in the half court and that's the only ball pressure you showed in that possession or that moment, it's going to magnify it. But if you're picking up full court, the intention is just make my guy kind of work a little bit. I may get shifted. Nobody goes nuts when a guy gets shifted 90 feet away from the basket, but it just puts it gets you into the game. It gets you involved. And at the end of the day, 9 times out of 10, they're trying to do their best stuff towards you back where the hoop is nowhere to be found. And you're going to be in a chance to recover and now apply the ball pressure you want to, because they worked a little bit, shot clock wound down, which is a whole nother conversation we could have on how universal the shot clock should be. But I think social media there's a benefit from recruiting purposes. It makes my life very easy. I think that helps a lot of kids.
Exposure.
In terms of what I could see. But from a development standpoint, I think it takes away from the self. And at the end of the day, I remember no matter what was being told to me, because my father was a coach, my mother was a coach, I was surrounded by coaches and stuff like that. It's whatever I internalized. And that conversation with yourself is the most important one. And you have to be by yourself to learn how you talk to yourself and to figure it out.
Amen, man. Shout out to Sly. Shout out to the Richard Willis Memorial Foundation. We just went to an amazing event, Brian. We missed you. We had a great
Bro, I
time.
missed it. I wish I was there.
Next year we'll fly you out.
Time.
Shout out to the whole Willis family. Let's let's wrap up, because I love that. And I think as much as kids are scared to get out there and make mistakes on social media, now it hurts them when they have a good game too. Oh, let me post this step back I made. That's the only one you hit in 8 weeks. Like, that's in your head for how long? So humility is huge for kids. And that's what social media takes away, I think, because I think there's a humility aspect that we all have. There's a fine line between that competitive edge and having humility. I think we all understand that too, being grown players. But Ali, you mentioned ball is life, man. Garrett, you mentioned hashtag ball is life. Ball is literally life, man. And basketball has so many analogies for life. And that's why I always bring up social media, because on the potty, I'm going to continue to preach this message. Put your phone down, kids. And even I challenge myself to put your phone down for 2 hours a day, like maybe an hour, maybe 30 minutes a day. You'll just put it down, go and walk away from it and be literally detached. I think if kids detach, this is a challenge. This is a potty challenge to myself. Brian mentioned Allen Iverson last night. You know, he's the true AI. He's the true answer. And I have a problem with this open AI, artificial intelligence stuff going on. Do we have to rebrand AI? Because I don't like it. There's only one AI, and he's the answer. Open AI is not the answer.
Greg, I told you, Allen Iverson will always be the answer. The
Oh,
guy.
wait.
Yes, sir.
I don't care what Elon Musk says.
As a teacher, if a kid's got an opportunity to write the answer on the test and they don't know it and they write Allen Iverson, they will get partial credit. I'm all about creativity, so
I don't mind it if the kid is able to get on the court and just forget about his phone for that hour, that 2 hours of practice, not running when they're on a water break, not running and go to the locker room and look at his phone. I don't mind it, because these kids are under a different type of pressure, and the ones that are able to handle that pressure of always being on social media, always being filmed, watched by people, I feel like it's bringing out a different type of player, and I feel like this is the most talented generation that we've ever seen, and it's clearly showing in the NBA. Every team is loaded nowadays, so like East and West has never been better.
See, I agree. Like it's a weird argument, because I could see the positives, I could see the negatives. I would also probably maybe add to that and it's something I've thought about a lot, and I've kind of like gone away from training a little bit. Do you feel, and you talked about pressure in the positive sense, do you feel like if there's a camera in that workout that you're having, you can allow yourself to fail and improve? Or is it ruining the vulnerability of an empty gym?
yeah, that's what I agree with Alec on that one, where it's like we talked about, Brian said it before, where he talks about you have to really go against guys who are better at all times. The human body and the human mind is like this incredible and unrivaled machine of adaptation in the world, and like we can really improve to a level and a limit that is, considered impossible 50, 100 years ago, whatever it may be. Like, you look at guys who are so good at basketball right now, like they would be on the court when Bob Cousy was there, and they would accuse him of being a witch. Like Kyrie Irving would be burnt at the stake. You know what I mean? Like, it's insane. Like the things that we can do now, and the way that the game evolves, the way we manipulate the rules, the way we have become bigger, better, faster, stronger, whatever it may be. But the way in which that happens is through constant failure at your limit. So it's not failure in the basics, it's not failure in the intermediate, it's failure at your limit. So you learn like that failure when it's up here, when you've made a mistake constantly and you're failing at your upper limit, that's when your body will naturally adapt when you're done. And the next time you come back to it, you'll be better. And you may not notice it, you may notice it, but it's the aggregation of marginal gains. Like you gain more and more over time. 1% better every day, the Atomic Habits thing, James Clear makes you 38 better over the year. But like,
write it down.
really like,
great book
yourself, right? And you really go to that limit. You can't do that in a workout where you're supposed to look perfect, because everybody thinks, oh, my college coach is going to watch this and see that I'm, making mistakes, and he's going to think that I'm not a good ball handler, so he's not going to recruit me. And it's like, you know what? Some college coaches might avoid you because of that, but the right ones, who are the right people and will make you the best version of yourself that you could possibly be, will see you busting your ass in a workout like that, and they will be enticed and want you there as a player on their team, because you aren't afraid of making mistakes.
I see what you're saying, but I feel like like I said, going back to the point of adding that extra pressure, that camera is, when that camera's on you, you're gonna want to work to your fullest, your best self. You're gonna try to work as hard as you can. I know me personally.
Yeah.
I'm gonna, if the camera's on me, that one
So-
pull up, I'm going as hard as I can.
So I think the pressure for a player is great. My thing is the pressure on a trainer, knowing the camera's rolling, to not give it everything he's got, knowing that his players may not look as good in front of the camera. That's where I have issues
Yeah.
with it. The trainer perspective,
Like that is where people who don't know enough about basketball or don't know basketball at a high level, they ruin basketball because parents who don't know,
yeah,
parents who don't know, things like that, they'll see somebody making mistakes and not realize that that is the path to development, and they will derail you from that. Like, you have people taking their kids away from trainers because the trainers make them make mistakes too much, or you have people removing kids from schools and bringing them somewhere else, or complaining on teams. Like,
Oh my God.
that's the thing, and I loved it so much, was that my dad, one, didn't know that much about basketball, the like little intricacies. He knew about effort, and he used to call me out for effort all the time.
Yeah.
But he didn't know like the little like the schemes, the strategies. For the most part, he wasn't super in tune with all that. So every time my dad came to a basketball game, he sat there and he shut up. Parents really do remove their kids' ability to succeed because they coddle them and they baby them, and it's like, you know, at some point you have to teach your kid accountability and the ability to deal with adversity and have a greater effect on a situation where you're at a disadvantage.
This is what the potty's about, man. Just conversations that we could come back to. You guys are welcome on anytime on the potty, because amazing insight from two guys who know, who have experience, and the teammates you guys are. I always say to young kids too, be the guy you want to play with.
Greg, I love having these guys on the potty. You know why? Because my ego was here, but after this, my ego's up here. I love you guys. You guys speak so well about me. You guys can come on anytime.
Well, listen, there's not a person in this podcast, room right now, whatever you want to call it, in the
Late night TV show.
Yeah, in the TV show, I wouldn't trust them with huge responsibility in terms of anything on a court. You guys are all the type of people who I would, always want as my teammates.
We know you guys have some busy lives. It gets late and we
Yeah.
wake up early, but you guys, much love. Welcome on anytime.
I appreciate you guys. Shout out Michael Porter. Shout out Michael Porter for supporting this podcast. I'm throwing a plug for you, Greg, real quick. That goalie's in trouble because it may not take you 10 tries to find that hole that you need to get it in. So I'm just saying that right here.
Yo,
I say you do it on the form.
Greg is good on his feet, but on the ice, we don't know.
Listen, I got some hockey connects that I might put you in touch with. It'll help you out. Shout out to everybody from CMSV with our good friend Coach Khalil, and then also everybody in CSI with Coach Tibbs, Coach Menezzi, and Coach Diaz, and Coach Barr. I got so many things I still want to talk about, just because I got some thoughts I want to share. Thanks, guys. Sounds
guys, love you, man.
Right,
yo, Duncan discontinue lemons. Don't ever forget it.
I have Duncan in my microwave right now. I forgot about it.
I can't talk right now. I'm on the potty.